Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Saturday morning with one Adam Ship My Money Share as we give you your foundational breakdown to take with you as you go out and run those errands, work in the yard, shovel snow. Adam, have you been shoveling any snow the last couple days here in the DC area?
No, got lucky. We only got a little bit of snow and then, some ice and sleet mixed in, but nothing that I had to shovel.
Ours wasn't too crazy, but it was really, really heavy. It was about 3, maybe not quite 4 inches, and it was very compact. So I kind of cheated and pushed most of it out of the way on the driveway, and I was hoping it would melt over the course of the next couple days, and it has. So that was good, and we didn't get any ice. Sometimes when you do that, you create more of a mess than if you just would have shoveled, because we have a bit of an incline on our driveway, so it would have been a skating rink, if you will. So.
Yeah, it can get pretty messy if you get unlucky with that.
Indeed. All right. Well, we are the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. We're coming to you on Friday night as we record this. Most of the games have tipped off, but we do have 8 teams on back-to-back, so there could be some stuff changing. Not to fear. You'll have a show where we go game by game in excruciating detail over all 10 games that we have on Saturday. The back-to-backs, probably 9 games. There's an early game at 6 o'clock, which we won't talk about. But the 9 teams are in our 9 games. The 8 teams that are on back-to-backs are Indiana, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Utah, Boston, Sacramento, Toronto, and Chicago. So that is almost half of the teams on a back-to-back. Now, where we want to pay particular attention to that is with New Orleans, because they had Elfrid Payton starting for the first time in 9 games on Friday night. He's been out with an ankle injury. And also Nikolai Mirotic is dinged up again. He ended up not widely reported, but Adam caught it and a few other people did, that he kind of tweaked his ankle at the end of his last game. He's in the starting lineup and playing on Friday night, but you never know what's going to happen if that re-aggravates or anything. And then Toronto on a back-to-back means that Kawhi Leonard will not likely play on Saturday because he is not yet playing back-to-backs. They're easing him into things after his quad issues the last 2 seasons. Any other injuries of note that we want to talk about? Perhaps a Russell Westbrook, Adam?
Yeah, Westbrook ruled out about, 5-10 minutes before we started recording this. So obviously that keeps Paul George and Dennis Schroeder at the forefront of what we should be doing.
All right. We have Rondé Hollis-Jefferson sat out Friday, but they think he will be back Saturday. That will be something to keep an eye on. We have Bogdan Bogdanovic, the Sacramento one, so I like to say. We don't know if he's going to play back-to-backs, but he is listed in the starting lineup on Friday. So we'll have to keep an eye on that because he has recently returned from his own injury. Wilson Chandler, he has a back-to-back there with Philadelphia. The thing you want to watch out with him is he's upped his minutes limit. Looks like he's around 20 to 22 minutes. We don't know if he's going to play on the back-to-back, so keep an eye on him because he's a reasonable discount dandy for us. We have Alex Len, who disappointed everybody on Thursday night with his less than stellar performance. He's got an ankle issue, is probable in another decent matchup. We don't know what's going on with Dwayne Dedmon. He's missed the last 2 games for personal reasons, but we do know that John Collins is close to returning. So we've got a lot of moving parts there with Atlanta. Scrolling around to see if anything else. Draymond Green, bit of a toe issue. We know that Steph Curry is still out with his groin injury. I think that hits most of them.
Yeah, Draymond out, Collins probable as of right now.
Oh, that's exciting news. John Collins is one of those guys now. He's missed the entire season thus far and a chunk of the preseason. He has kind of going to be a decent franchise player, or the next guy in line anyway. It looks to be like he could potentially be a fringe all-star type guy, but that's someone that we really like in daily fantasy sports because the algorithms with him being out for so much may not quite adjust to what he's doing. We'll have to keep an eye on any minutes limits, but he does a great job operating around the basket, in the paint, high field goal percentage, good rebounder, good shooter from 17 feet and in. So pretty solid play. Keep an eye on that. If you had to guess, Adam, or have you seen anything, any word on his minutes?
I haven't seen, but I can't imagine that he's full go. I mean, he's missed the entire season so far. He's young. The Hawks aren't playing for anything. I'd be really surprised if he's not limited.
I was figuring kind of in my head 17 to 20 minutes just to ease him in, but that's
right.
Pure speculation on my part. But
right, purely speculating. I assume he is limited to enough minutes where it's really annoying for DFS purposes.
Yes. Thank you for completing that thought, because he will also potentially muck up what we've become used to with Lan. If Dedmon's back, that's going to be a mess. Tarian Prince may or may not play. He was I forget what his, I think ankle or hip, but he's
doubtful with his Achilles.
Okay. So it's a mess there in Atlanta, and they play at a fast pace, and they're going against Indiana. So we're going to want to check that out. They're the first game, but we'll know more about that tomorrow. So we'll go position by position, give a high level review here. If you haven't signed up yet for Osmo Premium, what are you waiting for? Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word, as you're checking out, and you will get 1 free week of all premium Osmo content. If you select a package that includes Fantasy Cruncher, you will receive that for a week. Everything is included, as well as Slack, projections, articles. But I know a lot of you guys want to try out that Fantasy Cruncher. If you pick a package that doesn't include Fantasy Cruncher, you're going to be reaching out to Sport to have them unfix that, to fix that for you, to unring the bell, if you will. Don't do that. You'll miss out on a couple hours of playing around with Fantasy Cruncher while they sort that out. So make sure you pick the right package. Adam, I'm going to turn this over to you. We've got our buddy Kemba Walker. Here we go. Kemba, 9,500, very pricey, going against the new look Philadelphia 76ers. He likes to drive. Joel Embiid likes to protect the rim. What do you got here for us with Kemba Walker?
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of tough to get all the way up to him on, a full slate like we have today. So Kemba, I think, is fine. Like, you're going to get a ton of usage there. You know that he's very involved in the offense, but I just think that, at point guard, you can do better on a point per dollar basis than going to Kemba here.
Moving down our price list here, we have combo guard Victor Oladipo. You got combo guard forward Ben Simmons, Chris Paul, in a nice up-pace matchup there against Sacramento. We get Devin Booker, another combo guard. He gets a good matchup there against OKC. As you move towards the second tier of players, probably where we're going to live, as we like the point per dollar production a little more, what stands out for you?
I think the price tag on Paul is really nice for the matchup. Obviously, we've seen his production come and go this season, but he's shooting better of late. He shot really poorly at the beginning of the season. It's a pace up spot against Sacramento, who's been one of the fastest teams in the league. So I like Paul. If the game stays competitive, you should see around 36 minutes out of him. So I like him quite a bit. Kyle Lowry against Chicago at only 7,800 with no Kawhi. We assume with no Kawhi Leonard. That's going to be a spot that is absolutely a core play, cash games, tournaments, whatever you're playing. You see a nice usage bump for Lowry when Kawhi sits, and then obviously it's a nice matchup against the Bulls. So I'll like Lowry quite a bit as well.
That one's going to be interesting. I think a lot of the game log watchers are going to move right along, because this last 4 games, while he's been getting a ton of minutes, not necessarily getting the productions. The assists have been there. It's the scoring that's down. The scoring's down because, he's not making his shots. So nor is he taking as many. So that's something that can be rectified very nicely against Chicago. I like that one. Any of the discounted Chicago guards interest you here?
Zach LaVine always interests me, especially on DraftKings where he is so cheap. I don't like the matchup for him, but Kawhi being out should, at least help a little bit. But 7,600 for him, as long as the game stays competitive, you know that you're going to get 37 or 38 minutes out of LaVine, and he is a huge focal point, obviously, on that offense in terms of shooting, but also, facilitating, picking up assists. So I think that, especially if you're going to Kyle Lowry, I think pairing him with LaVine just gives you a lot of upside, hoping that game stays competitive, because I think LaVine is priced to his floor on DraftKings.
Well, I was kind of hoping you would go to Ryan. I can't say his name. Archidicano. There we are. Ryan Archidicano. Just for the fun of hearing you say his name. Good job there. Bad job by me. But he has been somewhat reasonable over the last few games, crushing over the 20 DraftKings point mark. And he is at $4,000 there. Feels like salary relief, but the upside may not be there. A couple other really discounted guys that one has upside but can be infuriating. I do like him. Probably gets to be guarded by Dennis Schroeder, but we've got Isaiah Cannon there for Phoenix at 4,100, and then Jeremy Lin, often overlooked. I have been playing a ton of him, still just 3,900. Adam, the algorithm is overlooking him. So he's someone I would like to go to. Now, Indiana does not necessarily play at the quickest pace. It's actually the third lowest on the season this year. So that may not bode well for Jeremy Lin. Any of these other discount dandies intrigue you?
Yeah, for Lin, I think you still want to keep in mind that Atlanta's been involved in blowouts lately. He's still not really playing alongside Trae Young, so his minutes are directly tied to Young. But I do think that Darren Collison, again, he's 4,500 on DraftKings facing Atlanta in a huge pace-up spot. He's only 4% owned on Friday night. He's off to a slow start. Hopefully that turns around. But regardless, if this guy's going to be 4% owned, it's just a pretty easy play, I think, at 4,500. Also, Lonzo Ball with Rajon Rondo out.
Ooh, good call out. Good call out.
He's going to get an extra 6 or 7 minutes over what he normally plays.
All right, that's a good one. Overlooked him because I was busy looking at and we'll use him to transition to the 2-guard. Fred Van, not so elite. That is Fred Van Vliet. If you are on Twitter, follow me at EMACDFS. You can get Adam at Ship My Money DFS. But I put out the Fred Van Elite fan club where we put out a 20-man over on DraftKings. It's for $1. I have to play Fred Van Vliet. That is the rules. I have cashed once in the first 15 contests. This is not feeling like a fair matchup, but I am now positioning this as probably the best deal you're going to find out there on DraftKings because, it looks like I'm paying the rake for you guys. So jump on in there. Maybe we'll entice Adam to play in this one. You don't have to be beholden to the same rule that I do for Fred Van Vliet. Looking at shooting guard, what do you like here? Starting at the top, I'm assuming James Harden. Is the $11,000 price tag something you're willing to deal with?
I think it's okay. I mean, it is a pace-up spot, and we have seen him be a little bit more aggressive lately. The issue is just that from a pure projection standpoint, whenever Chris Paul's healthy, it does take a little bit of shine off of Harden just because the usage lowers a little bit when he's playing 70% of his minutes alongside Paul. The assist percentage comes down a bit compared to when he's not playing with Paul. So I think it's a fine spot, but I also think that saving a little bit of money and going down to like a Victor Oladipo in a huge pace-up spot against Atlanta is really appealing. He's expensive, but I think he offers you 50 to 60 fantasy point upside, and he comes at a discount from Harden. So out of the two of them, I actually think I prefer going to Oladipo.
All right. Just checking out here. I want to see what Danny Green's status is. So Danny Green should be playing on Friday. He was dealing with a back spasm issue. So we'll want to keep an eye on him because it is, no pun intended, a back-to-back. With Kawhi Leonard potentially sitting out, that does bring a $3,900 Fred VanVleet into the picture. Don't try this at home, kids. I'm a trained professional who wants to give away money. What kind of in our mid-tier spot here, maybe would you can start to consider a Brandon Ingram now that he has dipped below 6,000? Gary Harris is still at the 6,000 mark. He finally got just his third game on the entire season with more than 30 DK points. They started Monte Morris, took Jamal Murray off the bench, and that gave Harris a little more reign in that with the starting lineup, a couple extra shots for him in his rotations there. You like either of those guys?
I think Harris is okay. I like the matchup against New Orleans. It's a pace-up spot for Denver. It's been a New Orleans team that isn't great defensively. It is worth pointing out if you're going to look at the game against Atlanta, like you said, that Jamal Murray came off the bench. But if you look at Gary Harris's numbers since last season when Jamal Murray is not on the floor, but accounting for, Nikola Jokic, you still get a big usage bump for Gary Harris. So I still think he's been underperforming his expectations this season, and that we should see him do better than he was. But just keep that in mind, that he did have a very favorable spot against Atlanta in terms of Murray coming off the bench and also the matchup.
All right. Let's see. Devin Booker, yes. Dennis Schroeder, yes. Those guys are combo guards. So you can get them at either spot on DraftKings. Last guy to mention, Klay Thompson, going against Dallas here. Probably will draw the pestering defense of the veteran Wesley Matthews, assuming he is healthy. Are you liking Klay at all? We know that Curry's going to be out again, and Draymond is gimpy as well.
Yeah, Draymond's out, and I believe that Wesley Matthews is doubtful.
Okay.
So, yeah, that bodes well for Thompson. It basically just comes down to his actual projection doesn't increase that much with these injuries to Golden State, but his upside does because they stagger his minutes with Kevin Durant. So he plays around 30% of his time without Durant on the floor. And in those minutes, he should have a usage rate up over 30%. Then also, if he gets hot, there's only one other guy that he really has to share the ball with in Durant instead of having Curry out there as well. So the upside is higher for Thompson. It is a perfectly fine matchup against this Dallas team. The price tag has come up as well, though. So it's still a secondary option for me, but there is clearly upside. As far as Devin Booker, it's a really tough matchup against Oklahoma City. We've seen Terrence Ferguson actually do an excellent job as the defender this season, and I would expect him to be tasked with defending Booker here. But at $8,000, it's kind of like Zach LaVine. Even when LaVine's in bad matchups, he's going to play huge minutes. He's going to handle the ball a ton. He's going to shoot the ball a ton. You get the same thing here with Devin Booker. And so especially if you're going to like a Dennis Schroeder or a Paul George, who both I think are really good plays, Booker's one of the guys that I think back with from Phoenix that, gives you a really high upside mini game stack.
Words we never thought we'd hear. Terrence Turd Ferguson and anything positive. Nice. Good to see. Last guy who I think is a trap, James Ennis III. Yes, he has hit just shy of 30 fantasy points on DraftKings in each of his last two games, but he is also shooting 15 of 19 in these games. So that may not be sustainable. So just don't get stars in your eyes. At 4K, he's still in play, but just don't get stars in your eyes. Small forward, finally, we get Kevin Durant, Paul George, LeBron James. Oh, Aaron Gordon. I didn't realize he was small forward as well. Let's stick to those high guys, Durant, James, and Paul George. How would you rank them on DraftKings, considering they are separated by about $500 to $600 each?
I think that where Durant's cheaper than LeBron, I'll take Durant. LeBron obviously is coming off an 80-point game. That's going to garner him a bunch of attention. Rajon Rondo being out maybe pushes some more ball in. But if you just look at rates that LeBron's had this year, his usage, his assist percentage, and then you look at what Kevin Durant has done since last year, whenever he's playing without, Steph Curry, and then now he's also without Draymond Green, which gives him even more of a boost in the assist department. He just projects as a better play than LeBron, and he's cheaper as well. So I really like him. If you can't quite get to him, then Paul George I think is a phenomenal play also. But Durant's the one that I really would like to focus on here.
All right. Looking down the price tag a little bit, let's hit on Philadelphia for a second. We know that we now have Jimmy Butler in the mix. He and Ben Simmons are both small forward eligible on DraftKings. They're each shooting guard and point guard respectively. What are your thoughts on those guys working together? It seems like I've heard Lofty's take a couple times now, once on the podcast and then once with you on the deeper dive on, I think it was the deeper dive, unless it was one of the strategy shows, but he seems to have given up already, and he's steeling himself for it taking time for Simmons to assimilate with Butler after kind of going all in the first one. We're going to set him aside, the emotional attachment to Philly and his Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl defending Eagles having a crappy season. I think that's affecting him, Adam. So a clinical approach, which you are very good at doing. What do you think about Simmons and Butler coexisting as they work things out over the next few games?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we want to watch. I don't think that it's a spot. I don't think the addition of Jimmy Butler should help Ben Simmons, because anytime that they play together, it's going to be times that it takes the ball out of Simmons' hands. Yeah, Butler helps space the floor, and that should make Simmons more efficient, but it's just not great for Simmons to have another ball handler out there. I think that it's something that will get better as the year goes on, but it's something to keep a close eye on for now. And also to pay attention to the minutes that they play, because in the first game against Orlando, neither one of them played a ton of minutes. I would think that they trend up, but we'll have to see. So I'm not really high on Simmons other than his price tag's appealing, but I'm not really high on Simmons as long as Butler's playing, whereas I don't think it has much of an effect on Embiid.
All right, cruising down the price list here. Again, be wary of what's going on with Tari and Prince. TJ Warren is kind of interesting. He has put up 40 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4. The price is increasing correspondingly. It is up $2,000 since this little streak started, but it is deserved because if he hits that mark, he is going to be approaching 7 times value, and that is good under any set of metric systems or if you're utilizing some constants. So we like him. Buddy Hield is on a back-to-back. He is going against Houston. I'm assuming he will draw PJ Tucker defense, assuming Tucker is healthy. What do you like here in this mid-tier? Because we get Ingram again in the equation as well.
Yeah, I think that Ingram is fine. I think that Rondo being out probably benefits him a little bit, maybe a couple more minutes, also the ball in his hands more. TJ Warren at $6,000, still just playing huge minutes for Phoenix, and the price tag, it's rising, but it hasn't really come up that quickly. Also Eric Gordon at $4,900. I think that, he hasn't really been great, but he's still getting his shots up, and it is a nice pace-up spot against Sacramento.
All right, I think that's going to do it for the small forward. Again, check us out on Saturday around 11 or so. We will go live with the strategy show. Take a nice leisurely look over there on the Awesemo.com YouTube channel. We'll take a leisurely game-by-game look through everything here. We'll go down a few rabbit holes and try to uncover some stuff, some trends, and get ahead of things early, some stuff other people are not yet noticing. We move on to power forward here. We've already mentioned LeBron James, Durant, Paul George. We've got Anthony Davis on a back-to-back. He is going to be hosting Denver. That should be an intriguing matchup. We have Aaron Gordon, who's going to be going against the Lakers. He's at 7,700. That one's an intriguing one. And then we've got Mirotic and Randall. I don't want to play Randall unless somebody is hurt. I don't want to play Mirotic unless I know he's fully healthy. This is leading me back to Davis. Talk about the top options at power forward, Adam.
Yeah, Davis obviously it's Anthony Davis. He's a high floor, high ceiling guy. It's not a great matchup. Denver has been good defensively this season. They don't play at a pace. If I have to choose between Davis, LeBron, or Durant, I'm going Durant for sure, and then probably LeBron. But that's not really to take anything away from Davis. I still think he's a good play. But I also think that, maybe saving a little bit of money here and going down to Aaron Gordon in a huge pace-up spot against the Lakers, or, if Mirotic were to sit, going to Julius Randle, I think makes a lot of sense.
All right, dropping all the way down, looking for some discounts. You want to hear about the mid-tier? Tune in. Check us out on the show, or you can get the deep dive written by Adam on Saturdays. Looking down here in the bargain range, Jay Crowder going back to Boston. We got to like that. He actually lit up his former team on 8 of 15 shooting just 3 games ago, dropped 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 boards, a block, and a steal. I don't know that that's going to happen again. That seems to be a little bit lofty, but it would not shock me at all to see him in the 20 to 25 fantasy point range. He does actually match up well against his former team, so we like him. And then the other guy that is catching my eye, and this all depends on the Atlanta Hawks, who's healthy and who's not. But Amari Spellman finally had the game on Thursday that we were hoping he would have Tuesday, well, I believe the technical term is he shit the bed. He started the game, didn't do anything in the first quarter, came back at the end of the first quarter, didn't do anything, sat out the second, came back at the beginning of the third, and then from the midway of the third quarter on, he did not play again. That was not what we were expecting at all. Just 14 minutes, 0 for 3 from the field. 3 rebounds saved him from getting a donut. He had 3 fantasy points. The next game he played, He ended up having 36 fantasy points, was helped along with 3 steals and a block, but he did get 10 boards, 10 points, and kind of filled the box score in just 27 minutes. I like this matchup for him against the taller front court there of Indiana. It's all going to come down to what happens to Dwayne Dedmon and the status of John Collins and how Alex Len's ankle is feeling, but he's someone I don't want us to lose in the shuffle. How you feeling about him, or would you scrape together the dough to go to somebody like the young Sabonis?
Yeah, I mean, Spellman, I think, is just going to lose value. I mean, Collins coming back and all the bodies they have there. So I'm not looking to Spellman, but I do think you can look to Jeremy Grant at 4,600 against Phoenix. You have Thaddeus Young in a huge pace-up spot against Atlanta at only 4,300. Crowder's price tag. It's not a good matchup, but he should play about 30 minutes here. So those are the guys down at the bottom that I'm most interested in looking at.
All right, let's get on here to the center position and close it out. Once again, outside of Davis and probably Joel Embiid, feels like we got a bunch of underpriced centers, Adam, here on DraftKings. That seems to be the new way of the world, much like with football, how they are. There's a much tighter gap with their quarterbacks in pricing. This year, it looks like we're going to be having a feeling that a lot of centers are underpriced. One thing that they have done with quite a few of them is they have center-only eligibility, which makes this a more intriguing decision point. Because if these guys had power forward eligibility, all of a sudden we could play them at one of 4 spots, that being center, power forward, forward, or utility. Having these guys somewhat discounted, and we can only have 2 of them, one at center and one utility, and we're potentially giving up that utility spot for another player that could have a better point per dollar value, makes for some more intriguing decision points here. I know a lot of people, when they hand build, don't like to pick 2 centers. I think this is something we need to focus on, Adam, and look at a little more as you're playing in the single entry and the 3 max contest, because a Steven Adams at 7,200 dropping 40 fantasy points, that would be nice. DeAndre Ayton being able to get in the mid-30s, maybe flirt with 40, although that would be a tough matchup against Steven Adams. But the point being, at his price, these guys all have the ability to hit for 40 fantasy points. That's pretty impressive. How would you approach that, as this seems to be more than just a trend and kind of the new way of life, at least probably through the Thanksgiving and maybe the Christmas holidays?
Yeah, I mean, I just haven't been paying up all that much at center on DraftKings, and it's not great because, I mean, you have guys like Embiid, you have now Karl Anthony Towns without Butler, guys that can actually go out there and throw up, 60, 70 fantasy point games. So I still try and make sure to project for their ceilings and, get to those guys where I can. But on a lot of slates, and I think this is one of them, you just end up with like an entire mid-range of a lot of centers that have legitimate upside as well. So a lot of times I just end up in there, and you hope that the expensive guy goes for 55 and your guy goes for 48 or 50. On this slate, I think that it's a nice spot for Capella in the pace-up game. It's a nice spot for Steven Adams. You have Willie Cauley-Stein, who somehow is $6,100 going into Houston. He's been underpriced basically all season, but this guy plays 34 minutes in competitive games. He's well over a point per minute fantasy producer. So I think that's just really an egregious price tag for him. Wendell Carter is down to 5,200, waiting to see how he does against Milwaukee on Friday. That game hasn't tipped off yet, but the price tag is down basically because he's had a couple of bad games as far as blowouts and foul trouble goes. But if Chicago can stay in this game against Toronto at 5,200, there's a ton of upside for Carter.
That's going to do it here for us. I was trying to see, I know we have both Hernan Gomez brothers on the slate. Oh, just Guillermo is, or Willie, as he's also known, is center eligible, and Juancho is small forward and power forward. So they're not at the same position. But I just wanted to throw those names out there because it's fun saying Hernan Gomez. Don't play them unless something comes up where we know their minutes are going to be different than what they have been for the bulk of the season. Any final thoughts as we get on out of here and let our good listeners continue on their errands or yard work?
Just be sure to check out the deep dive article that will be out later on Saturday, and check out the strategy show with Emac and myself that should be around 11 a.m. Eastern.
Very good, Adam. You're getting good at these promotions. Don't forget, you can get Fast Eddie Fair. He's going to be on live before lock at 6 o'clock on Saturday, and use that promo code EARLYBIRD over there at Osmo.com, and you can get 1 free week of all premium content. That's projections, articles, and the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. With that, gamers, we're going to get on ahead over here. You can find Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. You can find me at EMACDFS, and it is Osmo_COM. That it's Osmo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.